Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hey, Philippe.
Hello, everyone.
How is it going?
Great. Thanks for having me today.
No worries. So, give me 1 second. So, it turns out we meant to be streaming to all the places, but LinkedIn is not working once again. So,
Oh,
I'm
come
just
on,
going
LinkedIn.
to send a quick notification to all our LinkedIn attendees to let them know to join us on YouTube. And then we'll get started. Okay, so that should be done, and we should have some people from Postman in the room. So if you can just have a quick look and make sure that everyone knows that we're on YouTube instead, then that would be nice. Okay, so that done. Hey Jettison, hey
Hey.
everyone, welcome to yet another Postman live stream. So like every Thursday, we just pick an API, play with it, and see what we can build. And this week, we have Philippe from Salesforce joining us. Philippe, do you want to give a quick intro, who you are, what you do?
Sure, pleasure. Thanks, Arlemi. So I am a principal developer advocate at Salesforce. I've been with the company for 5 years, and I'm actually Arlemi's counterpart in Salesforce. So essentially, my job is about doing videos these days because of COVID, of course. But I also work in several other domains. I build demos. I write blog articles. Um, I do sample applications. Everything that a developer advocate will do. My job essentially is to make our developers' lives simpler by sharing innovation and best practices, with everything that touches development, basically, and collect
Nice.
feedback as well for our
Yeah.
developed products.
Yeah, I think I have that in my Twitter bio, which is like my job is to make the developers' life easier. So I
Yep.
think we are pretty much on the same page. Hey Shiva, hey John, we have Salesforce World saying hi, Philippe. So hey Salesforce World. Hey everyone. So actually, yeah, I'm Arlemi and I'm Philippe counterpart in Postman. I'm actually based in London, and Philippe, you're joining us
From France.
from France, from the beautiful country of France.
Not
Lucky
too
you.
far.
Okay, so we start our stream with a quick, in case you missed it, usually. So I'm going to jump right into it, and then we'll give an intro of what we're going to achieve today, and jump into the actual heart of the content. So let me share my screen, and that's in case you missed it. So hopefully that's big enough for everyone to see. I kind of don't want to hide the chat just yet because there's still people joining in. But yeah, what's new in Postman? So you had Joyce last week, I think, or yeah, I think Joyce walking you through the changes from Postman v8.10, and the thing was that you were able to copy links to elements from everywhere. But we've had 8.11.1 that has been released since, and a couple new things. The first one, which is most interested if you're an enterprise user, which I believe Salesforce is. So if there's any like Salesforce people in the room, that might be of interest to you. But basically in Postman, and as you'll see today, there's a lot of sharing public elements for everyone to access, etc. And it's been kind of hard to keep track of what's where. So now there's a new Manage Public Elements page. Again, if you're an enterprise user, that gives you the list of all the public things in your domain, and then you can just have a look, see what's happening, stop sharing some stuff, etc. So that's pretty handy. And then we have some improvements. So I actually did a webinar last week on API first design and development, and part of it is like there's validation on the fly when you write specs. And we've just added more validation of your like security, so more warnings of like high severity, medium severity, and low severity type of things you can get. So that's about it for the in case you missed it. I think. Let me double check. Yeah, are you doing much of like API first design just yet, Philippe, or are you mostly like starting from collections?
Yeah, we're working from collections at this point. Our goal is to have open API schemas and start from that in future.
Okay, cool. So moving towards it.
Yep,
Let's say.
definitely.
Cool. That's good. Okay, so let's have a look at what we want to do today. So we have a title which says a lot of things. A title being integrating with a custom Salesforce app. Luckily enough, we have Philippe, who's a Salesforce expert. But ideally, what we want to do So first part is going to be Philippe walking us through Salesforce and how you can kind of get started easily with like sample apps that you have ready, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then we'll use the Salesforce API. Just query that do you call that a workspace on the Salesforce side?
It's a collection. There are multiple collections, and we're going to work with one of them to interact with the platform.
Okay, so yeah, so we'll query the platform, get some data, and ideally we can create some sort of visualization in Postman to have a nicer view of the of whatever is in the on the Salesforce side.
Nice.
Is that does that sound right?
Yep.
Cool.
That's good.
Let's see. We have okay, so we have Krishna that does the good old Drake meme, which is Spider-Man, Superman now, but Postman, yes. So I see we have some.
I needed the translation.
Yeah, it's the
I didn't get it.
you only know it because like when you're part of Postman because it comes on Twitter every once in a while. So
I need to get familiar with those.
yeah, okay. Should we jump into it?
All right.
Okay, so I'll let you share your screen and then I'll give you the room and you can just walk us through. Obviously, if you're at home and you want to follow along, we should be going slow enough and with enough details that you can just kind of do the same thing. So feel free to follow and just ask questions. I'm going to remove the chat as soon as we start sharing the screen because unfortunately we need the space. But we are still looking at the chat, so please do ask questions and we'll be looking at them. Okay. Yeah, let me see when you're sharing the screen and then I can put it up.
Ready when you are.
Yep. Hey Rajender. Are you sharing the screen on the stream?
Oh, should I? Okay.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't get your signal.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. And then I can put it up, remove the chat, and put our faces at the bottom. Okay.
All right.
Tell
So
us.
we are looking at our fancy new developer website, developer.salesforce.com. And I think Arlemi has a link handy for those of you who are not yet familiar with this website. If you've been there already, it has recently changed a lot. We've been investing in a whole new design. Looks way more modern. And normally, if we've done our work right, all of the information is more easily accessible. You may know that Salesforce has several products. There's a broad range of products because we're acquiring a lot of companies. And what we're going to focus on today is the platform. But if you're interested in the different products, you can actually check out the APIs and you'll see APIs for a broad range of products. There are not all of them here yet. We're still working on the website. But looking at here, we already have at least the most significant APIs. If I scroll down, you'll see the list of APIs. There are more than 40 APIs that are in there, more in real life. They're going to be added to this website. And what we're going to work with in today's session is going to be mainly the Lightning Platform REST APIs. So this is what we're going to play with. Now, in order to start with something, we're not going to start from scratch. We're going to work with an example application, a sample application. So if I go back up to the website header, we have a section that is called under build called code samples and SDKs. There's also a short link for that Arlemi can share.
So the idea behind this is that when we discussed with Philippe, we're like, should we create everything from scratch? And then we're like, oh, we only have an hour and a half. So it would probably be nice to start from something built. And then he was like, we have this actually. And there we go, like pre-built.
Templates, yep. So there are a broad range of templates, but we're going to start with the one which is actually featured here. We're going to start with something called e-bikes. E-bikes is a fictitious electric bike manufacturer company, and we are taking a Salesforce org. It's already pre-customized, and we're going to work from that. So you can get to GitHub. It's all open source. The source code is available here with all of the settings. And we're going to save a bit of time. We're not going to deploy it live right now because it takes a bit of time. And especially today, our we're preparing for a new Salesforce release, and our so-called scratch org environments, which are temporary environments, are a bit slow to generate. So I've taken a bit of time ahead of the session to prepare it. Let me just open it right now if I can find my window.
So if someone wanted to get started with it now, they could just follow the README instructions,
Yeah, the README
basically.
is pretty detailed, step by step, different ways to install it. What we're going to do today is work on a scratch org, which is a temporary environment which can be created with a command line.
Okay.
I've already done all of that, so I'm just going to open it right now from my editor, and we should have another window pop up. There you go, it loads. And here we are. We are looking at the setup view, which is the administrator view. This is not what we're going to spend time on. We're going to go directly in the e-bikes application, which is the sample that I was presenting today. So this is a standard Salesforce org with some customization. And as the use case is about, it's about selling bikes. So there are a couple of custom views, including this product explorer, which lets you view bikes. So essentially you have some filters on the left, product styles here. And when I select a tile, I'm showing details here. I can zoom in and look at records. And you've noticed that we've moved under the product tab and we're looking at the detail of a bike. So what this is behind the scene is it's a custom object. The product is a custom object which has also custom fields. And each time we create an object in Salesforce, we're also exporting some endpoints. In today's session, we'll be playing with the endpoints that are associated with those custom objects. So I'm not going to cover the entire sample application. We can just focus just on that. And I think we can now move to Postman to try to interact with those APIs and see how you can retrieve information about the products, the bikes, for instance.
So before we do that, one thing that I'm guessing might be of use for some of the people on the chat. Can you quickly summarize what is Salesforce for, or who is it for?
Yes, sorry. I'm used to talking to
Yeah, that's fine. That's
my
fine.
Salesforce developers audience.
I just realized even myself, I was like, oh, okay, so that's Salesforce, but I've actually never used Salesforce myself, so
Yeah.
that's brand new
So
to me.
there's a broad range of products. Again, what we're looking at right now is called the Salesforce Platform, which is an environment which is customizable, but there are some pre-built aspects to it. This part is called the Sales Cloud. And Sales Cloud has a bunch of pre-built applications. There are also some other products which are called Marketing Cloud, Service Cloud, and they're basically built on a platform. And if you take, for example, Sales Cloud, the whole idea is to manage a sales pipeline, to interact with customers, so to track down accounts, contacts, persons working for companies, build reports on what you're going to sell to them, predict what you're going to sell to them. And there are a whole bunch of objects. But the idea behind Salesforce is that it's a customizable platform. We provide a template, but you can extend it. And this template is accessible and can be customized in all sorts of ways. It works with a mobile environment. It works with APIs, all sorts of APIs, whether they're REST or SOAP. And that's generally a big toolbox with
Okay.
also some products which allow to have extensions, for example. But I'm not going to list the entire portfolio.
Yeah. Okay. We actually have John asking a question saying, can we have a token to test against this pre-set up instance? Because otherwise, so they have a dev instance, but they would not be paying attention if they were setting it up. So I
So
think you'd, yeah,
if you
go
want
ahead.
if you want to create an instance, you will have to create it yourself. I'm not going to share the token itself because I'm using the administrative access. So basically, with the API access, you could do all sorts of nasty things, including sending emails with my name on them. So I'm
So
not going
no.
to share this one.
Okay,
But
so I guess yeah, in that case, so you'll be sharing some credentials with me, probably privately, so I can set up the environment on the Postman side.
yes,
But then, so in that case, for those who want to follow, I would say follow what we are
you
doing,
can
and then you can get to it like later.
you can actually sign up by doing developer edition Salesforce sign up. I can actually share the link. Sorry, I forgot to share this ahead. But there is this link here, developer.salesforce.com/signups, which lets you create a brand new org. Now, I'm
If
gonna be honest, you won't have time to customize it in just the amount of this particular instance, but we're gonna work with some specific objects. We're gonna work with the records from the e-bikes application, but you can work with some of the pre-built records. For example, the account object, which describes the company.
do you
So
want
this is
to
something you could work with.
send me that sign up
Yep,
link, and then I
doing that
can
right now.
put it in the yeah.
There you go.
Thanks. Oh, I just send it to everyone.
Yep.
Create account. Oop.
Oh, someone already shared. Oh, yeah, you did.
That's me.
Cool.
It's my alternative identity.
Very convenient.
Cool. All right. In that case, let's see how we can interact with this. So yeah, I think that's what Pranav is saying as well. So Pranav is saying, so the Scratch org will have all of these bikes images and sample recordings available in it, exposing the APIs. Okay.
Totally.
Cool. So that's interesting because I'm actually not sure. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm actually not sure how that works because I know we have we work with a few other like companies, and basically they have this organization that they create, but they all have different APIs because it's different product, it's different stuff. But it looks like even though we have that, we're still able to create with the Salesforce API without having to change too many things. So
Yes.
that's interesting. Okay, so hopefully Philippe can walk me through all this, but I'll be doing some exploration anyway. First thing first, I'm in the Devrel Republic public workspace, and I'm in the app this time because we couldn't use the app for a while because we couldn't share the links, but now we can. So I'm going to share the link to that workspace so that everyone who wants to like kind of see what we're doing can have a look. So that's the link to the workspace. And then I guess the start would be to find the Salesforce collection. And I've already searched for it. So I'm going to search for Salesforce.
So you can search for it this way, and if you're using the web API version, I believe you have a link handy also.
So I do have, but I want to show people how to find it. So I'm going to type in Salesforce. So I'm guessing that is you, Salesforce developer. I'm going to go for the
Yes, Salesforce
workspace.
Developers is the right name of the team.
Yeah. Yeah, because
so here you have several APIs, and actually there's a new one that is going to come up very soon. We have different products. The one we're going to work with is the first one, Salesforce APIs. The others are for other products that are part of Salesforce. The C360 is something else. There's Commerce Cloud and Marketing Cloud, which are specialized products with different APIs.
Okay. Cool.
Soon there will be also a new collection with Pardot, for those of you who are interested in Pardot.
Okay, so we have Sean saying Devra Republic is a tongue twister. It is indeed. And then Sarah saying the setup will take you quite a while to set up, to load the app and get it working to access the API. If you know exactly what you are doing, it will still take you a few more hours, likely. So fair enough. Don't do it at the same time, otherwise you're not going to follow what we are doing. Keep it
one
for
thing
after.
that changed since Sarah probably tried, there's now some scripts which can help you automate some of the actions if you're working with Scratch orgs. So that can be a huge time saver, but still you'll need to install the Salesforce CLI, and it does take some time.
I like automation. It's what drives me. Okay, so I'm in the Salesforce public workspace, and as Philippe said, that's the collection that we want to go with. So I'm just going to go ahead. Actually, is there some documentation? Let's see. There is some documentation. Okay, there's plenty of stuff here, so we can read that after. Okay, fair enough. It's not provided with the collection. We have the official documentation. So let's go ahead, fork it to my own workspace. Fork it to Dev Republic. So this allows me to watch the original collection. So if there's a change to the original collection, I get notified, and then I can just pull the changes. But hopefully,
that's a great feature of the public workspaces. The fact that you can pull changes, that's great. Before that, we used to share the collection as just a JSON file, a JSON dump, but people were missing from updates, so that's pretty cool.
Hopefully there's no changes during the live stream, but considering you're probably the one updating the collection.
It's updating every day.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the Salesforce APIs. But because there's everything in there, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a different collection, and we'll call it integrating with Salesforce. And I will basically just pull the request that we're interested in into that collection. Okay, so let's have a look. What does it say? Get started. It's documentation to get started with the collection.
So yeah, there's an entire documentation
Yep.
that you can read through. By default, you don't have much to change, and you can inspect all the settings and play with. But we've packaged things so that it's quite easy to start with. If you go in the collection authentication tab,
Yep.
everything is normally preset for you.
Okay.
So this means you just have to go down at the bottom, and if you click Get New Access Token, you'll get directed to a website, to a web
Okay.
page that does the authentication.
Yeah.
I just forgot to tell you something before you clicked. We
Nope.
need to change the environment to use a test environment.
Okay. So let me go back.
So that's
So
in the variables. Um, it's
let's.
currently using, the URL setting is using login.salesforce.com, which is what you'll be using if you're connecting to a production environment or a developer edition. We are currently working on something called a scratcher, which is again a temporary environment. So we're going to change that to test.salesforce.com instead of login.
So I'm going to change it here, and I'm going to reset all. Okay. So we have the right URL.
Now you can save that and you can try again to get a
Yeah.
token. This will
So
change the login page.
now that I'm thinking about it, it's going to set the authorization for this collection
Yes.
and not for this one. So I guess we might just work in that one then, because we probably don't want to replicate all of this in the
Yes.
other one.
There's quite a few settings in there.
Yeah. Okay. Ashwin, are we going to record this? Yes, it's currently being recorded and it's going to be available as soon as we close. So yes, it is being recorded. Okay, so let's go back to authorization. Get new access token. It's opening. So fair enough, it's opening on a new page, which I am not sharing because I'm only sharing Postman app. But we probably don't want to share that because I'm going to use.
The password is going to be hidden anyway if you copy paste it, so you can share it if you want.
Let me.
This is the standard Salesforce login page that is opening in a browser. What this is doing is single sign-on with a connected application. And what's pretty neat about it is that you don't need to set up this connected application. We're already sharing it with you. So you just have to use your credentials in there. And this will let you log in directly. So it's written sandbox down there, but we're actually using a scratch org.
So you've sent me this by private message.
Yep.
So that's my username. I'm going to paste the password, which hopefully is the right one, and log into the sandbox. And that should technically just send me back to... okay. So I need to allow that.
Yep. We're authorizing the Salesforce APIs collection to interact with our APIs.
Yep.
Again, make sure that you don't share your credentials because with these APIs, you can do all sorts of nasty things.
Yep. And I'm going to open Postman. Cool.
And there we go.
And now I will go back to... Yeah,
now,
that's...
you don't want to share the token, but you do... Well,
oops.
That's okay.
No,
I'll reset.
nothing happened.
You did want to grab the instance URL. You may have... Actually, I can share it with you on the side.
Okay. So John is saying we can for the environment. I don't think we're using environment. We're just using the collection variables, right?
You can also use environments. That's another option. If you want to use environments, you won't use the this kind of token. But there are other authentication mechanisms that you can use. You can use, for example, a SOAP login, which would use a username password directly in the environment. This is documented, by the way, in the collection documentation if you want to try other authentication modes or other ways to interact with it.
Okay, so you've sent me the...
Yeah, I sent you a URL, which is called the instance URL, which is coming back when you have the dialog which shows you the access token, and you want to paste this in the underscore endpoint at the bottom, the underscore endpoint variable here. This is the URL that is specific to our org. Previously, we were using a test.salesforce.com, which is the login endpoint, which is generic to all orgs. And now we're hitting our particular org, which is with a random generated name, as you can see.
Okay.
Right.
So I have set that. I guess the token, now that I've set it up, is going to be automatically used, or do I need to
I
set it?
don't think you click use. Yeah, you want to.
Yep,
Did
select
you?
that
Okay.
one.
All right.
Yep, and
Cool.
that should be it, I think.
Yep. Now, generally, what I recommend at this point is to try a first API call, which has no impact. So, for example, let's go in the REST API section, and let's try a limits. That's the third one. What this does is that it grabs the API limits from the org. Because Salesforce is a multi-tenant environment, we have some limits on the number of API calls you can make daily, for example, and also the number of different things you can retrieve at a specific rate. So when you hit that particular endpoint, you get all sorts of limits for different types of calls, like the
Very
volume of
nice.
data you can upload, etc.
And we get a 200. That's what we want to
Yep.
see. Yeah, I don't know. I know some people that just, if they want to see if they can do it, they just hit the delete all endpoint, and then if it works, it works. But then they have to recreate everything. Cool. So that works, and yeah, so that just gives me a bunch of limits. Okay, and then I guess you might be. It, does it stop executing your request if you reach that limit?
It
Or
depends on the kind of limits. Some limits are going to give you warning. There's a tolerance on certain limits, and others are going to just start returning errors depending
okay,
on what
cool.
you do. And you
So
can see there's a whole lot of them.
yeah.
They're obviously all documented. I don't think we're going to go too much in details in this.
Yeah, that's a lot to go through. But that actually would be an interesting one to make a visualization for. And then we can
Exactly.
just search.
I was
Maybe
thinking
if
about
we
it. You read
maybe
my
if you have
mind.
time, we'll go back to this one. We'll see. But yeah,
You could do
cool.
a nice graph. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't hit any limits during that stream.
No, we won't for
I
sure.
don't think we will. Okay, so we want to query all the products probably. And
So now, at this point, I think we're going to mainly focus on the REST APIs. Again, there are a lot of different APIs we could use. The REST is probably the most useful one. We're not going to create new objects. Not going to deploy packages. We're not going to do complicated things. So we can just play with the REST APIs.
okay, so I will go
Yeah.
here, and then okay,
Now,
what can I
at
do?
this point, if we don't know where to go, we could look at resources by version. That's the request, the second one.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and if you hit it, you'll see that it brings a whole list of different endpoints. And this is a way to navigate and to explore the different features. And for example, we could do, based on that, we could look at what's called S objects. That's in the list here. S objects are
Let's see. I can't see it, so I'm just going to use the.
yeah, or we can
Okay,
just
okay,
there's
that's
also a dedicated query which is already available. But S objects are the objects, the object types. So, for example, account is an S object. It's Salesforce objects essentially.
okay.
So
Cool.
the bikes, the products are also called S objects.
Okay, so I could click on it, create a new request just like that, but that's
You
not
could
what we
do
want
that.
to do. But it's
Yeah.
not going to use the right variables because they're like collection variables. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to try to find the same one
We can
here.
use it here. Maybe let's already jump to S-object describe, which basically shows us a definition of an object. And here, for example, we can already take, as the object name, we can take our product object. So capital P or RDUCT. And one of the fancy things with Salesforce is that we have prefixes for object names. When it's standard, there's no prefix, but when there is a custom object, it's underscore underscore C. This denotes custom object. So here we should just do underscore underscore C in the name of our
Okay.
object. At the end, yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
suffix, not prefix. My
Oh.
bad.
So.
No, but that's a yeah, at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see.
Right. So when you have this at the end of an object, you know that it's a custom object. So if you want to try this at home and you don't have the eBikes application, you can just simply run this on account, which is one of the standard objects. If we hit that, we're going to get a description of this object, and we're going to see all the different fields that compose this object.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's a lot of them.
it's a pretty large response, and we can probably collapse some of the sections just to show. For example,
So-
the child relationships means where this object has relationship with other objects. And it has also some layouts and some fields. So this fields thing, like here, is one of the most interesting things.
Yeah. So this one
Of
would
course,
be all the like the name, the
all the
price.
settings, whether this is a text
Yeah.
field, how many characters it support, whether it's case insensitive, etc. There's a lot of properties. Obviously,
Yep.
you don't want to customize your entire data there because everything is available with a user interface. So you
Yeah.
just but if you need to build some sort of integration that has to analyze the content of an org, well, this is all the information you get.
So we have Pranav asking, can it fetch all the labels, API names, and data types from Postman?
But yes, with the right request, you can do all of that for
Yeah.
sure.
So I was actually wondering. So that's how you manage to do like custom product and custom how you call them projects. So you have like this basic
S objects, yeah.
URL, and then just by like changing this path
Yep.
variable, then you can create the right things.
Yep.
Okay, well that's interesting. Okay, so that's a lot of info indeed. Is there anything that we want to look at specifically here?
I was just showing that it exists now because we already know the sample application. We know the fields that are available, so we're not going to go exploring the
Yeah,
details of this particular object. I think we can directly use some of the fields.
we actually see here there's like product name.
Yep.
So that doesn't return any product, right? It just
No,
describes.
this is really the structure of the object.
Okay,
If you were looking at a database table, we'll be looking at the columns and not at the rows of the database table.
okay, cool. That
Let's
oh,
actually let's
that's
actually
helpful.
look
Yeah.
now at records. So an object is a definition with fields,
Hmm.
and for each object you can have records, which would be data table database rows. And for that,
So
well,
this one.
you could do this one, but we're going to call another one. We're going to call something called query.
Okay.
So if you're going to have to scroll down a bit, it's one of the requests which are more at the bottom.
Oh, there's actually a lot of requests
Query.
here. I didn't
There you
realize.
go. Yeah.
Okay.
And here we already have a query open. So Salesforce uses a query language which is called SQL. SQL is pretty similar to SQL, the database language, but SQL has a few other different syntax basically. And the request that is already listed here is showing all the fields for the contact object. And we're introducing also a limit clause so that we don't retrieve more than 200 records.
Okay.
So let's do that. Let's keep that query, but let's just change the object. Instead of querying the contact standard object, let's just fetch the product.
So do I
So
need
again,
to do the
yep,
like underscore C?
like that.
Am
Perfect.
I a Salesforce expert yet?
Yeah, or oh, you forgot the T. Well, hold on, you forgot the
Oh,
T.
then
All right.
I guess I'm not making it then. I need to
Almost.
get my certification
Yep.
again. Okay. Actually, I just want to save all my requests because otherwise I know I'm going to forget. And then just quickly another question for you, Philippe. Is there any basic endpoint that does the same thing but not this much detailed properties? It's like basically like
About
describe, but
describing the object. No, there's a lot of information about the object. Essentially, this is the reason why we create the views. You'd have to filter yourself if you don't want to look at everything.
okay. So again, you could have a visualization, and then you can
Yes,
just maybe we just visualize the whole collection. We say
it's better to have access to more information because you're
yeah,
generally using those APIs to interact programmatically with the objects. So more
yep.
data is better in that case. But if you want to build a UI, of course, you would just filter out what you need.
Okay, let me send this.
There we go. So there's only just a few of these bikes, and you can see you already have all of them, just 16 of them.
Yep.
This is just sample data that we have, and um, and then for these objects you have the different fields. So it's already a simpler view, but it doesn't describe the type of these fields. It's just showing you the values.
Okay. So yeah, you could merge the two if you wanted, and then I guess here again we see. So this would be like
It's a
the
custom field.
custom one, yeah, and these are like default ones, basically.
Yes,
Okay, cool,
absolutely.
nice.
So this is essentially the way we retrieve the list of bikes. And when I shared the Product Explorer earlier, this is what is happening behind the scene. There's a query that runs. Of course, it's a bit more complex because there are different filters that you can put in there. But in the end, it's a so-called query that selects the bikes, returns the properties. And then there are custom components which format them very nicely. So we turn image URL into a picture. We have some fancy decoration to make it look nice.
Yeah.
But the
Okay,
data is there.
yeah, that's a lot of info actually. Okay, and then so can we count them actually here? I don't know if this gives the
Well, it's written up there. That's the first attribute. There should be 16 of them.
yeah, true. There is. It says here. Okay, cool.
All of these requests are paginated, by the way. Each time you do an API call, I mean, most of the calls, but these are paginated. So, for example, when you're doing queries to fetch records, it's paginated.
Okay.
If there were more than 200 records, we would have page counts. So we'd be able to look at the next page.
So does it paginate based on the limit you set yourself, or is it like a basic one and then it doesn't really matter?
Oh, so it's based on our limits, and we can also use an offset clause to look at the
Yeah.
other pages if we want.
Okay. Cool. All right. Then I guess we can start doing some visualization. We have enough information probably with this request, or do we want to use another one?
No, I think it's
Okay.
already a good start.
Cool. So that's where I actually try to write some code. Just kidding. I'm going to copy paste stuff from everywhere. Okay. So what we want to do from now, and I think so. What Philippe showed at the beginning was the Salesforce UI, and you can basically see that information there. What we want to recreate here is kind of the same experience, but in Postman. There may be different reasons for which you want to do that. One can be for fun. The other one can be because not everyone has access to the Salesforce page, and basically they can just use Postman to visualize what's there. And otherwise, maybe some people want that information, and we can just filter what's really important for us. So we'll go through that, but then let me just check. This is very informative from Pranav, very nice. Hope the field all is also available from Workbench or Salesforce Inspector plugin.
So these are two, for those of you who don't know these products, Workbench and the Salesforce Inspector plugins are actually community contributed products which let you explore the Salesforce environment essentially. But Workbench is something that is going to be phased out at some point. So advise you to look at other alternatives like the Postman collection, for instance.
Yes, please look at the Postman collection. And then we have Sarah. SQL is like a very strict version of SQL. I guess it's a different SQL for different reasons.
Yep. It's restricted because also it has a lot of restrictions in terms of access policies. So, for example, SQL is something that allows you to also write objects, but SQL is only for reading. So it's a read-only language. There are other methods to write objects too. And another important rule with SQL is that SQL has some permissions assigned to it. So we're currently connected as a given user. We're the admin, so we have access to everything. But other users may have access to APIs, and they could have a restricted set of rights. They may not be able to see a particular object. They may not be able to see a particular field of an object. There's a whole permission configuration that you can deploy that's pretty flexible. And SQL adapts to this. So different people, running the same SQL query may get different results based on their permissions.
That makes sense. Some question about recording, and then like Apex is very restricted version of Java.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apex is our programming language for the backend. I wasn't going to show some of it here.
No,
but
stay away from it.
The one thing I will mention, however, is that I mentioned that the APIs are quite powerful. With the APIs, you can even execute some Apex. There is an endpoint that lets you execute Apex from the API. So imagine you were running backend code, but within the Postman client. So this is why it's pretty powerful. You can write code in your Postman environment and run it on Salesforce backend.
So I want to check something. So I'm going to go to the learning center, but I think okay, we don't have a connection. Okay, so because I'm going to do some like switch between the docs and Postman, I'm actually going to move to the web version. I should have thought of that before. So I will go back to here, and I have copied the URL, so I can do this, and it should send me straight back to exactly where I was. Yes. Okay. So that's the request that we had. If I send it again, it an inchecker. Okay, so that's because I'm not on the desktop agent.
Of course, I can fix that for you. So the setup of the collection works in desktop app and also in the web UI. But when you're working with web UI, you do have to do some settings that you need to configure. So maybe I can share my screen and I can take care of that so that everyone can see it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll take over for a minute. So what I'm going to share right now is I'm going to go back to my org. You should be seeing it now. And as an admin, I'm going to set up our Salesforce org to accept connections from the Postman web UI. So the reason why the connection was broken is that when you're accessing Salesforce from the web client, it uses coarse cross-origin resource sharing, and by default, Postman is not in the allowed list of domains that can connect and use the Salesforce resources. But I can fix that by adding the Postman endpoints in here. I just need to grab them from the documentation of the collection. Do I have it at hand? No, I don't have it at hand. So let me just get it. That's Postman slash. Yeah, here. I should have it here. So this is a good call out to show the documentation of the collection. Going back to the workspace, grabbing my Salesforce APIs collection. And from the documentation there is a getting started link here. And we haven't gone through all of this, but this is essentially the setup instructions on how you would deploy the collection. And going down there, there's a specific set of instructions for installing with the web UI. And in there, if I click on this page here, we will find the specific endpoints that we need to add to our course resources. There's also a video instruction which shows all of this step by step. And I'm going to scroll down a bit. And these are the two things I need to add. I need to add start.postman.com and also start.postman.co to the list of my course domains. So that's what I'm going to do. First one. And all right, now I'll get back to course. Second one with just .co. And that's it. Now, normally, if I've done everything right, Arlemi should be able to continue and resume.
Actually,
I'll sharing.
Actually did it in the meantime. And so there's actually two ways to go around. So if you're only using the web UI, and let's say you're using Postman on your iPad, because why not? Then Philippe's solution is the best one. If you're using Postman on your desktop, but in the web, what you can do is change the agent as well, and that's the thing that I did. So I used the desktop agent, and that goes around course anyway, because it kind of goes through your desktop and doesn't come from a browser anymore. So I can send that request now.
Just one important thing. The agent is optional because we work in general with a lot of enterprise clients, and one of the restrictions they have is that they generally don't have the choice about what they can install on their workspaces. So the agent is actually a browser plugin. So if you cannot control your browser, if you cannot install additional software, there's still an option to not use the agent and just go with this course.
That's a very good point, actually.
We had some issues with some users, so I'm sharing this piece of knowledge. I think it's very valuable.
Yep. Okay, so now we're here, and we'll do some visualization. So if you're not familiar with visualization, let's have a look at the Learning Center and see what it says. That's TLDR, what the visualization are, is just a nicer way to visualize your API response. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to create a graph because admittedly what we're getting is a list of products. So there wouldn't be a lot of sense to make a graph out of them, but we probably make a table. So how do you make a visualizer? 3 things. And now I almost know it by heart because I've been doing that for a few streams. First, you need an API response. And this one we already have. It's right here. And the good news is that it's already JSON, it's already formatted. So we basically don't have to do anything apart from just using it.
Quick plug-in here. All of the APIs, whether they're REST or SOAP, can have different formats. If you change the headers, you can get the same response in XML if you want.
No.
No. It's JSON, but I don't know. I'm just saying that because some people were asking last time I shared that. That's a convenient thing to do. You can get some XML if you really want XML, but in these
Yeah,
days,
no,
well, not so much, not so many people want that. So
I mean that it does make sense, and we actually just added support for WSDL in Postman, so
yeah,
you can do full on XML if you want now.
yep.
But yeah, I'm happy with JSON. I'm going to keep going with JSON. Second thing we do need is a template, so an HTML template. I will cheat again, and as I mentioned, right, I'm just going to copy paste a lot of things. So let me put this here, and this one is just a basic two headers, two two cells, and then it's just a mustache template. So it loops through the results. So we're going to have to change that to match what we have from the results. But for now, let's do the last part, which is the small JavaScript bit, which what it does, it takes the API response and binds it to the template. Without that, all you have is an API response, a template, but nothing happening in between. So this is the piece of code that's just going to bind them and just link one to the other. So we have our table, our API response at the bottom here, and then we have this set thing. So what we want to get these 16 records. So that would be instead of pm.response.json, it would be pm.response.json.records. And then we have this table, so this whole like list of product. And then what do we want to look at? We probably want to look at the what is
Name, I
valuable
guess.
in here. Yeah, probably name would be valuable. So we actually this one is already set, so that's nice.
Except this case sensitive. Yeah, be careful with that.
Yep. And then we probably want to. We could have a picture, a
Yep.
description.
Very-
I don't description. I don't think we're going to use that.
No, no.
Oh, that's some like very detailed thing. So if you're into bikes, this probably makes sense to you. It doesn't to me, but I
We
like
have the
the
picture URL, which might be convenient.
yeah.
That's the last row we
I'm
have
going to
here.
take the level,
Oh,
and then I'm going to add the picture. This one, do that one, and then picture URL. Okay. So now we can just do image. So this doesn't need to be the exact same thing because that's basically just text. Level required, I
someone
guess.
was asking earlier where we can get labels.
Okay.
And with the APIs, you can do that. There's a specific endpoint for that because everything you do in Salesforce is something that you can internationalize. So the labels we're seeing in the UI are matching the language that the user has. If we're connecting to another user with a defined language, we would be seeing different labels.
Okay. So that's not a thing here, right? It's just
No, no,
because it's in the
we don't have
okay.
labels here, but that's just to
Okay.
go back to labels.
Okay. So let me. I think that's all I need to do. I've changed the values here. I've set up my binder here. Do you call it binder? I don't quite know. Just my function that sets the records,
Yeah.
and then have the response. So let's send that, and then go to visualize. Okay.
Wow.
So
Great. Works from the first start.
done. End of the stream. No, uh, that's good. We have 16. Hopefully, I'm not going to count them. I'm just going to trust the
Well, we could add
machine.
a row with the row count. I mean,
We could add a row
header
count.
with row count.
Let's see.
That would be convenient.
Let's see if it comes back with a.
No, the first element, top, you have the number
Oh
of the
yeah.
total size. This is something we could use. And
Let's actually put
of
it.
course, if you want to restrict the number of results showing X number out of, we could also do that if we were limiting the limits.
So the
But
way I
this is
need.
only showing the maximum records in the database. It's
Yeah.
not showing you what you're actually getting. In this case, we're getting all of them because there are fewer than 200. But if we had a lower limit, like for example, if you limit it to 10, the number of results, you would have additional fields in your response.
So if I want to, that's actually a good exercise because if I want the total size, I can't just get the records. I need to send the whole thing. But that means what I need to change here. So this would be total size.
Yep.
But then all of these ones, instead of being name, they need to be records dot name. I think. I guess we'll see if I'm being proven wrong or not. Oh, that's not the one. So let's see why. Each response dot
Dot record, yeah.
pod. Yep, that's the one instead.
Not dot record, dot records with an S.
Records. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
There
And
you go.
now, so this is HTML, right?
We didn't get the count.
Oh, yep. Because
Oh,
this needs to be
response, I guess. Response
response
dot
dot
total
toast.
size. There we
All good.
go.
So
Nice.
these are images, and because this is an HTML template, why not actually show the image? And we'll
These
do.
are large images, so I don't get.
Well, I can do. I'm sure I can do some
Yeah, maybe restrict the size.
height. And there's this magic of HTML where you can just
Yep.
put like a 50, but I'm actually going to do 150 px. Sounds about right. Then image SRC. There we
There
go.
we go. Fancy bike images. Very
Yep.
cool.
We have everything here. So we have the name. Um, we have the, what is that again? The
Level.
level.
Yeah.
And then the, that's, where is it? Does it say required image here? Oh no, that's liver required and then image. That makes sense. Okay. Okay. So that's a very easy way to just get that in there. But let's say we want to explore a single product. Let's do it first in the just plain API way, and then we can look how a visualizer can help. So which request am I looking at? Am I looking at the same with a different request? Like a different query? Or is that the same?
Because there's only one, we can directly go to another endpoint. Let me actually check which one we could get. That's gonna be a specific endpoint of. Let's see. It's gonna be near the top. It's gonna be a subject. Where is it? No record. Where is it?
Sarah says, really like the visualizer. Me too. We have I'll share a few links at the end to like bigger examples of what you can do with visualizer. I think that's like that the table view is like the very basic one. But we've seen some people doing like map stuff, some news aggregator. So yeah, plenty of stuff you can do with visualizer.
Okay, so there are multiple endpoints we can use. Let's actually use another API to change. I don't think I have the one for the REST API pre-built, but I have one in the UI API. So that's another way to explore our settings. So
Okay.
you want to collapse the REST API call here,
Yep.
and let's jump to another API called the UI API. In there, there are multiple. It's a bit better organized, and under the record folder, there's going to be get a record. It's going to be like about
No,
the
just
10th.
a single
Yeah,
one.
here you go.
Yep.
There. So in there, we can just get the record ID. And that's something that is part of the list of results you just returned previously. So if we call this with the list there, we'll be able to get our record.
So if I get it here,
Yeah, if you
is
take, for
that?
example, the first one, you have
Yeah.
this thing here. So a bit of a Salesforce culture here while you're copying this thing. In Salesforce, records are either 15 or 18 characters hashes. And the first part is actually the type of object, and then there's all sorts of details which describe the Salesforce instance, etc., etc. When it's 15 characters, it's case sensitive, and when it's 18 characters, it's case insensitive, depending on whether you're working with integrations or not.
Okay.
Small parenthesis, all of that is documented, so if you want to
Yeah, I hope
learn more
so.
about that, look at the different values, you can check
Okay,
all that
so
out.
I'll send this one and see what comes
All
back.
right.
Invalid.
Yep. Okay, so we want to
Oh,
have
I need. Okay,
additional
I need to.
fields
Yeah,
here.
take this.
We can select specific fields if we don't want to get everything, or we can take a layout. And maybe in our case, we can do a layout. So let me just figure out what's the value for layouts, because the documentation is a bit small. It's going to be, for example, we can take full, for example. If you type full with capital F, it's going to show us
Oh,
full
actually,
layout of this object.
actually, yeah, it's
So
yeah.
yeah, it's
Okay,
documented down there.
let me
I
send it.
believe this is what. Yeah. So the difference of the UI API and the REST API is that the UI API is specialized in getting you the record data, but also the so-called metadata. And what we call metadata is data about data. So this is about, for example, the structure of the object, whether this field is a text field, whether this field is a date picker, and all of that. So you can see that this request is extremely large. The response, I mean, is extremely
Yeah.
large because it contains all sorts of information. And this is the kind of thing which will give you the labels, the translated labels, and all of the information that is used to generate the view within the Salesforce, um, within Salesforce.
Okay. So one thing, so the thing we did, if we just walk back to what we did before, we came here, copied an ID, then went here, pasted it
Yeah.
there, and then send the request. So one way, again, like Visual can help, instead of having to kind of scroll through JSON, which is, it's readable, right? Probably in terms of like programming stuff that you can read, JSON is probably not one of the nicest one, but it's kind of nice to read. But we have this feature which just puts it in plain like table. So we can just add, first thing we can do is add it here. So I can actually add one that would be ID, and then one name here, which is actually, let me double check that it's
Lowercase d.
yeah. So I think yeah, but okay, so that would be nice. I think already, because then just here I know exactly it's much more like human readable, right? I have a nice name, I have an image, and I know if I want the nice green bike, all I need to do is take this, bring it to this one, paste it, and then send. Now it's my green one. But if you want to go one step further and make it like even more user friendly, because again it's an HTML template and it accepts JavaScript, we can add a copy to clipboard button. So I'm just going to do that because we can.
Why not?
Yeah, but for that, the trick being, if you do it in the browser, interacting with the clipboard is blocked by the browser. So I will have to go back to my Postman app.
And I love the fact that the two environments are synchronized because it
Yeah,
happens also that I do that often. And while you work in an environment within the browser, then you can jump back to the desktop app and everything is there. So
yeah,
it's
it should
cool.
be. So it says conflict. I can click it out and then go back to it, which was, let me try to remember. It was
So we were
query.
which one? Yeah, the
So the
query.
first
Yeah.
one is query, the one with the visualizer. And then if I look at that, nice,
Yeah.
I have my ID, it's all there. And then the other one was
It was
UI
UI API and record and get
records,
record.
get a record. And this one should be set as well. Okay, cool. So let's do a little bit of code. There really isn't much. All we want is that next to the ID, we want a copy to clipboard button. And then we can just take it and put it there. So let's do here. And again, I'm probably going to cheat because I don't know exactly what's the. We'll need a button. It's going to be a non-click function, and then I can just write. So that's my it's my new keyboard. So I'm just figuring out which keys I need to use. And there's navigator. Do we have autocomplete now? Navigator.clipboard. Right text. And then basically the text is just the same thing that we already have here. So I can just take that, paste it here. So it,
Yeah.
right.
So you'll want also the closing tag for button and
Yeah, yep. Actually, and I'll probably
label.
do,
Yeah.
I'll do a label in between. I'm just going to do copy.
I
And then,
mean, Netherman has a question and he said, what about an href link? Yes, you can actually do that. And you could open the Salesforce org from a link there if you wanted to. Yeah.
yep. I could make, and then you would open Salesforce in Postman, but then The only problem is that you might have some like JavaScript limitation or like cookies, etc., which you may need
Yeah,
for yeah,
the authentication wouldn't be shared, so that's
yeah.
something. It'll be easier to do that in the browser, I guess, on another window.
So I'm going to. I think
Yeah, it's a lowercase c for on-click, but I think it will tolerate the
yeah,
capital.
that's the. I think that's one of the debates of like, do you need capital? So I'm going to try that first. I think I'm missing some like error handling, etc. But this might just work. So I have a copy thing. I clicked it, but I don't have any feedback. Let me just see if I paste it.
Can you put the lowercase c in click?
I can, but I think that yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
don't
the
think
same
it's.
thing. So let's see if I copy one that finishes in AAH. Click copy, and then let me just paste it here. Okay. Very nice. Just works. Do we want to add? Probably don't even want to add like some. I could add a. So what I could do here is just add some like another pop-up that just says, "Oh, successfully copied to clipboard, etc." If you want to do that, please go ahead uh, and check the MDN docs, and you'll have all the information about like the Navigator clipboard API, and they'll tell you how to do it. I don't think it's needed here. We know it works, but now that I have this, um, instead of going to JSON, finding the right things by just reading raw text, copying the ID, and then going to the other one, what I can do, I can just send my request of all the products, scroll down to the one that I think looks nice, and I mean, I guess I have a thing for green bikes, but this looks nice. So click copy, go to the next one, paste here, and now I'm getting the new product. I can go ahead and create a new visualizer here that would describe that product, but I think you all got the point of visualizer now. I probably don't need to do it again. But yeah, that's the beauty of it. And I think I've mentioned that we've had a lot of people doing nice stuff. So I'm just going to drop a link to. We actually just ran a hackathon which was called Visualize for the Prize during our student summit, and we've had plenty of people just doing random things. And I've actually, why not share that to everyone? Oop. Oop.
So while you're doing that, I want to call out the fact that the collection is open source. So if you feel like you've built a very fancy visualizer, don't hesitate to share it with us. Like for example, we're looking at doing visualizers, for example, for the limit call.
Yeah.
That's something that would be very nice with gauges of the limit consumption versus the total allowance. That would be very cool if we had that.
Yeah, that's actually. I'll show that right after. So this is the different creation. So you can see there's some maps. There's some TV series, rating, visualizer, plenty of stuff you can do. But what? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying you
No.
can actually bring in JavaScript APIs.
Yeah,
So you have
anything that has
easy
a
or Chart.js, whatever you want, bring it up.
yeah
And yeah.
anything that has a library, just bring it.
If you're a fan of Salesforce products, you can even take, for example, the Tableau APIs, which are one of the Salesforce products, and do some fancy stuff there.
So what Philippe mentioned, right? He said if you create some stuff, you can just send it back. So I've done sub changes to that API, to that collection. I will show you how to do it. I'm not going to do it, and the reason being, I have my my token that is saved to the collection, so I would need to remove all that if I wanted to do a pull request. But what I can do, I can go in the settings of my collection here, create a pull request, and say some nice visualizations for my fellow. Do you have a name for people that use Salesforce? Salesforcians?
Salesforce developers, that's a general term, but no,
Yeah.
why not? I mean, why not Salesforcians?
Yeah, I'll just go with Salesforcians. So I could go with that. I'm not going to say it anyway. And then just say, hey, Philippe, please review my pull request and send it. And then on his side, he's going to get the pull request just like it works on any Git type platform and accept it. So yeah, again, if you want to create some
Yeah,
visualization for
Trailblazers. Good one,
other,
Sarah.
yeah, trailblazers, I guess that's probably
Yeah,
the one
right.
that
That would
works.
be probably better.
And yeah, So
Yes,
any
Pranav
pull
had a
request, welcome.
question in
Yep.
the meantime. He was asking if there's a link or cheat sheet with the SQL queries we can run via Postman. So actually, it's the same kind of queries that you can run with Apex or backend programming language or different tools. And this is documented. The language is documented. And what will be different depending on your org is the custom objects that you have to bring in there. But once you master the structure, which is very similar to SQL again, it should be pretty straightforward. There's nothing specific to the API here. It's really the SQL language.
Cool. Let me stop sharing. I think let me put back the chat and let's see. So we have Sean, Ryan, Keegan, Salesforce Unite. Well, no, we already moved on from Salesforce. It's now Trailblazers.
Trailblazers. I'm gonna get
uh,
into trouble now because I
yeah.
forgot to say Trailblazers.
Netterman, next step, automatically create a generic visualizer from the JSONs. This is, you might be in my head already because I was
Yeah,
actually chatting with a colleague. I was telling you,
yeah,
Philippe.
that was with me.
I was telling you a couple of days ago. I was like,
Yeah.
one thing that I want to do is, create visualizer like automatically.
And
So that's, yeah,
one of them that we really need is not. I mean, what is even more important than JSON because Postman can already display JSON quite nicely. One that I think is particularly important is the CSV visualizers. To visualize CSV file, it would be very nice to have something generic there.
you created your own, right?
I did one. I need to
Yeah.
publish it. It's not yet published. For example, when you're looking at the Salesforce logs, which is also something you can do with the APIs here, you get a CSV file back, and the CSV is not something you can easily look at. So
Cool.
with a
And we have,
visualizer, you get a nice table just like you did with the products. So it's way more convenient.
share with the community, Philippe.
I will. I will. It's so little time.
Yeah,
So
no.
many ideas.
And we have Daniel. I found it useful to create a link that sets an environment variable that you can set your second request to use the variable. So you can't actually use the PM API in the visualizers, unfortunately.
Ah,
So yeah, we thought about that. We might have some solutions for that coming sometime, but not quite yet. But yeah, I think that's a wrap for the content of this stream. So let's have a look at what we've done. And Philippe, you stop me if I'm wrong, but
oh, go ahead.
we started on the Salesforce side, got a sample app from their GitHub repository. We assumed it was already deployed. We didn't go through the deployment because it would take a bit too long. It was an e-bike store demo. Then Philippe just showed us around the Salesforce platform and how it looked. Then we jumped into Postman, looked at the Salesforce public workspace for the collection and get the authentication set up. And then we queried a list of products, created some visualizers, and then made it as easy as possible to get an ID from that list of products using visualizers again to use another endpoint to query a single object. So a single bike. And in this case, it was all the green bikes because I like green bikes. But yeah, I think that was. Did I miss anything?
No, no, great recap.
Cool. Very nice. In this case, before we go, what we do is a community shout out. So I don't know if you have any trailblazers to shout out or any like
All the Salesforce things.
or any, I don't know, maybe you have like a book that you're reading, a
um,
podcast, whatever.
no books, but we're actually working now on the Dreamforce developer keynote. So I'm actually part of the great team that works on this particular keynote. And Postman may be featured, maybe. Who
Oh,
knows? So make sure you watch it. It's on. It's gonna be later on at the end of September.
okay. Is there a link to register or something you want to share?
I don't have it handy, but if you just search for Dreamforce, I'm pretty sure you'll find
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it's a big enough conference
It's a
that it
big
should be
thing.
should be easy to
It's
find.
big.
Cool. I again don't have a specific one to be honest, so I'm just going to shout out not just our community because usually we have a lot of people from Postman interacting, but today I mean we are our usuals. Shiva, we always here. John, you're always here. It's always nice to see you. But we had a lot of new people coming around, so we've had the I guess trailblazers or a Salesforce enthusiast. So hopefully You've all learned something. You've all taught us something probably as well. So yeah, with that, thank you everyone for
Yep.
joining. We'll see you again if you want next Thursday. I'm actually not sure. Let me just double check. I don't want to say anything wrong. But we have, what do we have coming up? So yeah, if you're new, we actually stream every Thursday with different things. So sometimes we have a partner like Philippe coming around. Sometimes we just play around. So actually, yeah, next week my colleague Sean is just gonna do a blindfold challenge with me. So the idea is I come in, I have no clue what API we're gonna play with, and at the start of the stream, he tells me what I'm supposed to build, and we try to build it. And
Sounds like a nice
yeah,
challenge.
until now it works. So hopefully, but he did say he will try to make it harder. So yeah. With that said, thank you everyone.
Thanks.
Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye,
Bye
everyone. Thanks for
bye.
having me again.
Thank you, Philippe.